So guys, welcome back to an F1 series, but it's a new series, it's a new game, F1 2017. I couldn't wait to get this game up and running. And just going briefly over a couple of things in the driver creation, like helmet type thing. There's a few designs done by the community and they've been like kind of mentioned here. Some of the designs are really good, I'd say. Some of them are better than the kind of standard ones. But I didn't like any of them, so I'm just going to go with like like this helmet here, and I'm just going to adjust the colours on it. But this game is pretty good, I have to say. There's a lot that happens this year. There's a lot outside of the career mode that can distract you from it, which is good, because then you're not just grinding in the career mode and you're not getting bored with it. Invitational events are what make the career mode what it is, basically. There's also a couple of new things as well with the upgrades. The R&D system is a lot more complex. There's an R&D tree with different things. Reliability now takes an account in the engine specifically, and the AI can also fall victim to reliability issues and performance issues with kind of worn parts. It's all about how they manage them. So you get a set number of gearboxes, an engine parts, but then if you go over the amount, just kind of think of it as like McLaren Honda. Yeah, if they use like more than 4 power units, like 5 power units, they get a grid penalty. It's as simple as that. We've seen McLaren Honda so many times doing that. But yeah, also there is an edit screen. There's a managed drivers. Why am I saying edit screen? It's the managed drivers type thing, where it allows you to create multiple profiles, so you can have multiple career modes at once. So this is the YouTube series. As you can see on here, it just says manage drivers, like on the square button. If I were to do a series like outside of this, maybe another career mode on top of this, but I didn't want to erase like the main kind of career, I can do that. So now we are going to go into the team selection screen to choose our team ahead of this career mode. I was debating 3 teams, and 3 of those teams are, well, one of them was Red Bull, the other one was Williams, but then I decided to go for Haas, just because I haven't been them. They're a substantial like kind of team, and yeah, just a different really career mode than last year's. But here is Emma Jenkins giving us our contract from the team, and yeah, we raced our first practice session. Well, we drove our first practice session, and now we go into the motorhome. This is where all the upgrades happen. This is where Chris, that guy on the laptop, that's where he stays most of the time when he's not finding us in the hospitality areas, which are better, by the way. And yeah, you'll occasionally come here throughout the career mode. Pretty much as simple as that. This is where the development happens. But there's our resource points from our practice session. We have 2,391. We had some on top of the initial allocation. So we're going to view the R&D tree, and it's an actual tree, as you can see. There's like 4 main areas: powertrain, aerodynamics, chassis, and durability, which is to do with the engine parts being reliable and such. There's also 4 kind of core competencies, which are kind of aside from that. So some of them will require you to, I don't know, race invitational events, being the first driver, racing pit stops, and then probably something else. Really, that's pretty much that. So that can benefit you in the long run. So basically how this works is that if you buy one upgrade, so for example one of the hexagons, if I were to purchase one of the hexagons, I couldn't like buy another upgrade that was another hexagon, for example, until that one was done. So it's kind of like, at this point you can only do one upgrade per department at once. This excludes obviously the little squares, which you can do, of course, but all the resources go into one upgrade. The core competencies, as you would have seen, will help increase that. But aero was the weakest part of the car, and in fact we're pretty much at the bottom for that. I decided to go for the aero, the front wing kind of like upgrade, which is necessary, and also the durability, because this is key to the engine, because the engine does wear. I don't know by how much, but I'm going to go for it anyways. Other upgrades as well, the little diamonds help to increase quality control, therefore reducing the risk of failure. The kind of like 2 arrows are kind of like reducing the amount of resource points needed So before we get into the race, let's take a quick look at the grid ahead of the Australian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton beats Kimi Raikkonen marginally to pole position here at the first race of the season. P3 is Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari, lining up behind his teammate. Valtteri Bottas in P4 in the other Mercedes car. Lance Stroll, a very good qualifying from the rookie Canadian, as he lines up P5 well ahead of his teammate. Perez in P6 in the Force India. Sainz also outperforming his teammate substantially to grab P7. Esteban Ocon in the other Force India lines up P8. Nico Hülkenberg in P9 in the Renault after a great qualifying despite the performance of Renault being substantially worse than last season. Kevin Magnussen in the Haas, very good qualifying to line up P10. Max Verstappen, a very poor qualifying session from him. He normally is very quick around downforce circuits, however the Red Bull car wasn't really suited to this track surprisingly, and P12 lines up ourselves in the other Haas directly behind our teammate on the grid. So P13 goes to Felipe Massa in the other Williams, not really great qualifying from him. The two McLaren Hondas P14 and 15 of Alonso and Van Dorn respectively. Daniel Kvyat, very poor qualifying, lines up P16. The two Saubers of Marcus Ericsson and Pascal Wehrlein line up P17 and 18. P19 goes to Ricciardo and P20 for Jolyon Palmer, but those two cars did not set qualifying times because the conditions were pretty variable and they got caught out with the time limit there, so they're starting from the back of the grid. So that's going to be it for the entire grid for the Australian Grand Prix. Let's take a quick look now on board on the strategy screen.
Excellent job yesterday. We qualified above expectations. Let's go out there and put in a performance.
Okay, here we go. Ahead of the race strategy. Initially it was soft, super soft. What is this? Super soft and super soft. I didn't think this was a good strategy. I thought it was a very poor one. So therefore, I'm kind of like more inclined towards the second one. The super soft, ultra soft strategy, which kind of makes more sense. The soft tyres weren't as great. There's a lot more tests to do in practice now that helps you decide that. So I decided to go for the second strategy, so we're going to do a possible 2-stop here today. So here we go, ahead of the Australian Grand Prix. It's 5 red lights for Haas F1 team. It's lights out and off we go. Verstappen getting a bogged down start. We jump him. Our teammate is just directly ahead of us, believe it or not, so go down into turn 1. We have to be very cautious. Overtake our teammate, stay down the inside, but Magnussen is hanging it round the outside there, very much still, as we go side by side. But then as we go into this corner, right here, we are battling with Carlos Sainz, believe it or not. I go down the outside, try to challenge him, go around the outside of this corner. Very nice swooping corner, very nice shot as well. But Sainz is still there. I still didn't get ahead of him, but then at this point I do. Perez gets slowed up by Ocon, giving us a slight chance. I look down the inside, decide against it. Not enough space there. Nowhere near enough space. So ahead of lap 1, we are in P8 currently, trying to catch Sergio Perez as we go down the inside of Perez here, jumping the curb, having a very kind of like unstable exit there, as Perez is now obviously on the better part of the track, overtakes us once again for P7. And I tried to look down the inside, obviously misjudge it massively and completely bottle my line. So then that allows Sainz to catch up. Perez has got slightly further ahead, but not to worry. We just need to kind of knuckle down at this point. Consistency is key to any kind of racing, this year more specifically. So all we have to do is focus on being consistent, just focus on staying within 1 second after lap 3 once the DRS is kind of active. But yeah, somehow I'm still ahead of Sainz. In fact, I've pulled a little bit of a gap to him. It's only 0.3, but more than what it was before. Perez is actually getting slowed down, believe it or not, as you can see on the minimap. But I don't know what's happening. I really don't. Why are they going so slow? So Lance Stroll has a problem with the car. This is very kind of realistic because it's the first race. People are going to have reliability issues or problems quite early on. Hopefully not me. But yeah, I believe Perez and Ocon are behind Stroll. I can't see any other kind of option really. But Perez, as you can see, just loses a load of time to us here. But then he goes to the inside, and it is Lance Stroll, believe it or not, as we go down into this corner. Stroll locking up massively, and we take advantage going up the inside there and round the outside. Pretty much the same kind of place we did the move on Sainz, but obviously we overtaken like Stroll a lot earlier. So now we get rid of him, and it's now up to lap 9, where I'm on the back of Perez, getting the DRS and the slipstream, trying to look down the inside once again at this corner and decide against it, make slight contact with the rear there of Perez's Force India, and then we end up pulling back a little bit. But then through this corner, Perez just gets an absolutely crap line. So what do? Try and look down the inside. I braked a little bit too early. I'm still not familiar at this point with the braking kind of distances, and braking systems are a lot more different. So it'll take a bit of time to get used to. As you can see, I'm pretty much braking early. But then Perez locks up, and we try to do the switchback, and it failed because he kind of parked his car in the right place. But as we go around the left-hander here, as we dart to the inside for this corner, remember we tried to make a move down here before Perez cuts the corner. We try the switchback, works to perfection this time. And now Perez, after that disastrous exit, is getting swamped by Felipe Massa in the Williams, and in fact he does get overtaken by Massa in the Williams car there. Hopefully we'll be able to keep those two behind, and I think we can start to catch up to Ocon now, because Ocon is not too far ahead. We've got rid of Perez, we've got a little bit of clean air, so it should work. But then we have a little bit of tyre issues on the front left, lockups obviously. But our pit window is very soon. It's lap 10. And yeah, lap 11 here, this is where Massa starts to catch up. And in fact, he's catching pretty quickly. He's on the same tyre compound as us. He's got a Mercedes engine in the back. But yeah, we're still keeping him behind. So it's a little bit of a kind of like, is this realistic or what? But then I decide last minute to box in for tyres. I want to get an undercut on Massa here. I really, really want to get ahead at some point. I just want to get some new tyres on. The tyres weren't great. But as we go into our pit lane entrance here, we have to now engage the pit limiter. And now there's an option to kind of like manually release from like this kind of point. But I disabled that. I will enable it at some point, but I just disabled it. I wouldn't see the point, just learn one thing at a time. But as we come out of the pit lane here, we are in P16, just ahead of Lance Stroll. In fact, quite a bit ahead of him. Just behind Ericsson, believe it or not. So now we have to chase down the Sauber, which shouldn't be too much of an issue because he's on Super Softs. I'm on Ultra Softs. Ultra Softs are just quicker. And they're pretty much new anyway. So it takes us up till the, I think it's the back end of the same lap where we catch up to Ericsson. We were basically pushing non-stop. It's like qualifying. Yeah, as you can see, it's just insane that we're trying to look for ways around Ericsson, but we can't because Ericsson right here just decides to slow right down. And at this point, I just go around the outside of the final corner here. Very, very tricky to pull this off, and I just pull it off. Look at it. We're up into P15. Who is that ahead of us? It is Felipe Massa coming out of the pit lane, so the undercut just didn't work for us by a very small margin. But now, as we look to the inside of this corner to overtake Massa, nice into the braking zone. In fact, that was a very comfortable braking zone. So now we get ahead of him. We're up into P14. We just need to catch Julian Palmer in the Renault, our former teammate from last season, of course. And he's on soft tyres. He's going to be quite slow. But more to the point, we have Felipe Massa on the back of us, trying to look for moves. So we just got to defend. I just get a rubbish exit like the Perez one before, and we just now need to go to the inside to defend against Felipe Massa. He tries to go around the outside. In fact, I brake a little bit earlier, and in fact he does go around the outside, and then he just goes down the inside of me in this corner, cuts back in front of me, brake checks me, and we go behind. We're in P15 right now, so hopefully if we can stay within 1 second, that is the DRS detection zone right now, so hopefully we'll be able to kind of stay within that range. And in fact I do stay in that range. Lap 14, Palmer is slowing Massa down. I have the DRS, put it up into rich mix, 0.3 more laps of fuel than required, I get the slipstream off Palmer as Massa moves to the inside, and now Palmer goes wide. We take this opportunity to go down the inside. Kind of caught me by surprise, but I was ready for it in case it were to happen. But now we've got the DRS open and the slipstream down into this corner, outbraked ourselves completely, go onto the AstroTurf, and also losing the place to Massa, but nearly losing another to Palmer. So those mistakes, you make one, you get punished. The AI are very punishing, but on lap 16, our teammate is getting held up by Massa, funnily enough, and now we go down into this corner. We try to overtake. Massa is pretty much still ahead of Magnussen, and Magnussen just defends quite well, actually, into this corner. I'm trying to go into the second to last corner, no way around at all, just briefly making contact was that. Hopefully there wasn't too much contact there. But then as we go down the back straight here, teammates in the pit lane, as confirmed we are up into P8 as a result of pitting cars, and now we just catch up to Massa. It's basically that simple, just be consistent, try and push these tyres, we can do it. It's lap 17, we've got quite a long way to go in this race, so by lap 20 we're in P7. And Massa pitted, I believe, ahead of us. So now we've got Esteban Ocon, that's right. But we have Max Verstappen behind us on the super soft tyres challenging us. I decide at this point it's not worth fighting a Red Bull. They're just so much better than us. We let Verstappen go at this point. And after that, we kind of decided to come into the pit lane because our pace was going way off. So we're in the pit lane. In P12, believe it or not, coming in for our second stop on the ultra soft tyres, which is a very, very good call because otherwise we'd be pretty much stumped for strategy. The tyres were pretty good, I have to say. They've got me a lot of positions, but now we come out behind our teammate and just ahead of Palmer, who's on the super soft tyres. So hopefully if we can push, right, we can possibly get points. This is in the kind of extreme zone, where if we push enough, we can get points. And by lap 23, surprisingly, we've caught up to our teammate. Kevin Magnussen is on super softs. He's on super softs, so basically he's on a different strategy. It's not going to be the same strategy for both of us, absolutely not. My driving style is completely different, but now we try and follow Magnussen through this corner here. We get a superior run off that corner, going right into the right-hander. And now as we go into the braking zone, I go down the inside a little bit too hot, under the brakes, go off the track, rejoin. Magnussen takes a little bit of avoiding action, and we just about keep it clean. Oh, we keep it clean. That is going to be a little bit of a talking to after that race. I think Gene Haas would not be impressed by that move. And as we go into lap 25, Daniel Kvyat in the Toro Rosso is slowing us down. We don't need DRS, we just need standard and just need good braking, which we do, just about on edge of being too quick into that braking zone. So we're in P12, only 2 places away from the points. This is now lap 29. This is the last lap of the Grand Prix. We are literally within a couple of tenths of points right now. And we have DRS on Carlos Sainz. Can this be the moment where we can get points? The race is finished. Raikkonen has won, but the race is not over yet for the points, for the back end of the points. This is for 1 point. I'm putting up a big fight for 1 single point in this race as we go sideways there, going through this corner. Sainz is not got the grip there as we go down the inside of Carlos Sainz into this corner. We just about make it stick. Can we make it stick? Yes, we certainly can. It's P10. That's points. 3 places ahead of our kind of goal. And as we stick on board for the final few corners of this lap, we can just about keep Carlos Sainz behind us for the moment. This is not over yet. It really isn't. And as we go into this corner has actually seen a little bit of trouble from us during the race, and I certainly do get the exit wrong, which allows Sainz to close slightly back up, but down into this braking zone, can we somewhat take the apex? Just about, running a little bit wide. Sainz is still marginally catching up to us. We've got to nail the last 2 corners of this circuit here. Lock up on the front left, not too bad, we still make the corner. This is crucial now, the final corner, just about taking it ideal. Not the best kind of run, but it's P10. We grab 1 point for Haas. What a great drive, and it's a first point on the board for Haas.
Anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more. And now let's take a look at the drivers' standings. Kimi Raikkonen takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship.
Well, this is a very good race. This was a very, very good race for Force India, definitely. Well, Esteban anyways. 8 points for Force India. We grab a point. Our teammate, unfortunately, DNF'd in this race. I didn't quite catch it, unfortunately, but at the end of that, we have plus 6 points. We are getting our like, kind of position better. So the team are quite happy with our performance. But next up, we have the introduction to the Invitationals.
Is this the one?
Indeed it is. And this is Jonathan. He's going to let you drive some of his cars.
Well, not quite my cars, per se. It's a mere detail. You know, I'd really rather be down there racing them myself, to be honest. I'm actually quite handy behind the wheel, but it's the downforce, those lateral Gs, you know? The old neck can't really handle it. So I need a pro. And that's where you come in. We run in a bunch of events throughout the year. Time trials, races, all sorts. And I have it on good authority that you have the ability and temperament to do well in these. Make our business look good and, most importantly, bring the cars back in one piece. So consider this a formal invitation. I'll see you at the track.
Okay, so this is the introduction to the invitational events. We are doing our first invitational today. It's in the Williams car, the old Williams car, in fact. And yeah, first attempt at this challenge kind of didn't go well. I was a bit too kind of anxious with overtakes, and the AI do go slowly. But second attempt right here at this challenge. By the way, this is on the Silverstone kind of short circuit, or the Britain short as it's probably known as, which is kind of familiar to me because I've done racing games where I'm at this kind of like layout regularly, so it wasn't really too much of a difficulty trying to get used to it. In fact, it's probably better for me than the original Silverstone track. But we have to overtake 12 opponents in the allotted time, and all the cars are pretty much the same except from ours. I think ours is a newer kind of equivalent in a way, but the AI is set to kind of like a set delta around the track. So it shouldn't be too difficult, really. In fact, this car's really got some power behind it. And in fact, it's a lot more powerful than kind of the power units that we have now, the hybrids. These classic cars really do pack a punch. And if you played any of the old F1 games, there's a couple of cars which, you know, that are making a comeback. So basically the 2010 Red Bull, for example, which is obviously in F1 2010. So if you've played that game as the Red Bull team, you're kind of probably familiar with it, but who knows? You never know. There's really not too many modern cars as such, modern being like late 2000s, mainly early 2000s with the Ferraris and such. Yeah, but all of them are quite fun. I've raced a couple. They are amazing. The sounds, oh man, the sounds of this car sounds great, but wait until you get into the more modern cars, so the 2008 McLaren, the Ferraris and such. They're pretty good. They pack a very good punch as well. They've got a lot more torque, put it that way. But going back to this challenge, after being slightly sidetracked, we have overtaken 8 opponents. We've got a minute 40 left to hopefully overtake another couple. In fact, another 4 at the most. So it's kind of evident to really kind of run in rich mix throughout the whole entire challenge, because you've got 3 laps of fuel. You've got plus 3. Come on. You might as well just put it up into rich, and in fact it's a lot easier in rich as well if you kind of are not used to the game, or you're not used to racing games. This is kind of like an easier way to do it. Just don't over kind of accelerate in the corners. If you accelerate while it's sideways, you go everywhere. But it's kind of weird. You've got to kind of like judge when to accelerate, and at this point, you know, like into turn 1 and 2. the car does understeer at high speed. It's not like the normal cars where there's a load of aero. At the time, these were pretty good. This Williams car was pretty good for kind of like downforce and such, but compared to modern alternatives, really like modern alternatives, they're not really good in terms of aero, but it doesn't matter because they've just got a load of power. And as you can see, 30 seconds left just have to overtake one more car. So this car is kind of just planting it on the apexes, so you just try and stick behind as long as you can and playing down the clock a little bit. I think they do get faster once you progress through the field, but there you go, into turn 1, sorted. There's our 12. Can we overtake a couple? We've got 2 cars ahead, we've got 7 seconds left. We go into this corner, down the inside of 1, trying to catch up to Calabresi, I think that is. And we ended up completing the challenge, so this is going to be the end of F1 2017 Career Mode. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new, be sure to subscribe for more regular F1 2017 Career Mode, and I shall see you all next time.